Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Steve Koloka, and I serve the Queen Mary as her managing director. It's wonderful to have you all here, and we've really been looking forward to celebrate Everette in this way. You know, I've been kind of going around and telling everybody that the one common denominator amongst all these lovely faces is Everette. So, so good to have you here. It's also, Cindy, it's an honor to have you here on the ship. This is really like a reunion, right? Everybody here seeing each other and hugging each other. It's totally like a reunion. So I got to tell you a funny story before I start. That story is, I asked one of our attractions folks, I said, okay, find out on Everette's birthday, okay, August 13th, 1960, what was going on with the Queen Mary, okay? And then let's find out, we'll come up with a cool story about the Queen sailing on the ship through the Atlantic and blue skies and everyone laughing and everything was like perfect. So she came back last night and said, well, it wasn't exactly that. I said, okay, tell me, I can't wait to share the story. And she's like, well, the Queen Mary on that day was docked in Southampton. There was a major strike going on with all the workers. And the passengers were so upset. And there was 400 passengers that needed to get back to New York. So Cunard paid for all 400 to fly back to New York. And, you know, that's what happened, Steve. I said, I won't share that story, so I won't. So you all have a program here, and hopefully you all have it. And there's a couple of really neat things about what's enclosed in the program. So we have the program itself, which I will review, and there's a lot of quotes here. So if you see these inserts, these wonderful quotes, we really printed out all the quotes from our website. We had over 250 people put on the website wonderful things to say about Everette. So when you look at it, it might be yours, it's just several wonderful people who had such great things to say about Everette. So I'd like to review the agenda. So here's what's going to happen. So after my welcome remarks here, I'm going to pass it on to Captain James Sanders, and he's going to read from Psalm 91. Then after that, we're going to have Cindy Hoard, Everette Hoard's wife, come up and speak for a bit. And then we're going to do a family tribute from Scott Becker, Everette's best friend. And then we have some wonderful speakers here. So Rebecca Atkinson, who is kind of like Everette's, like, what do you call it? The kind of adopted daughter. Yeah, there you go, adopted daughter. And then we have Jackie Chase from Cunard, and it's great to see you, Jackie. And then we have Pastor David Perman, who's Everette's brother-in-law. And then we have June Allen. June's actually going to show us, is going to join us via video. And if you don't know, this is all live stream. There's so many people that love Everette all around the world. So people right now are watching from England, all over Europe, all over. So we'll have June Allen up here talking, and then I'll say a few words, and then we'll go to a celebration of life video. So that's what's happening now. Then hopefully, time-wise, by 4 o'clock, we're going to go over to the Britannia deck. And on the Britannia deck, which is outside, we're going to have a song performed by Todd, and then after that, we're going to do a beautiful poem by Captain Sir Ian McNaught, and after that, we're going to do a laying of the wreath, which should be really, really beautiful. Then we're going to do a champagne toast and a few words from our officers, and then we're going to do a beautiful song that, if you saw the program, you know that that's Everette's favorite song. And then after that, we'll have Scott McDonald play the piano, and then we'll just keep on celebrating Everette's life. Okay? Sound like a plan? So, before we start, just a few things I really want to point out. We have a table over here to my left, and on there, there's a letter from J.T. Jones's family, and it's just a beautiful letter, and it's something that I wish they were here, but they're kind of here because they're family, and I'm sure Everett, just loved them very much. So if you see that letter, maybe head over there and read it. It's just a beautiful letter. And then just a few thank yous. I want to thank Dylan Madison. Dylan's our Director of Experiences. Him and his team and all of our crew for planning this wonderful event. We really wanted this to be special. Our main focus was Everett, and that's all it was. There was no number 2, number 3. It was number 1, Everett, period. So before we begin, we do have a few proclamations I want to hand out. And if I can have one of the officers come up here, First Officer Danny Rangel. We have, this is for you, Cindy. This is from the Long Beach Mayor, Rex Richardson, and District 1 Council Member, Mary Zendejas. Great. All right. And then also we have another proclamation amongst many, but we'll just go over a few right now, and that's from the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, Janice Hahn from the 4th District. That's a big one there. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Open it up, it's pretty cool. That's cool, huh? And I asked Cindy, I said, okay, do you want to take these home? And Cindy was so graciously, no, keep it here on the ship. And, we're looking at a special place to dedicate to Everett, so we're actually going to put it there so it's there forever. So with that being said, I'd like to present to you Captain James Sanders, who's known Everett for over 20 years. And actually also spoke at Everett's dad's funeral as well, and he's going to read to us Psalms 91. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my family. Oh, no. That is not the way we're going to honor Everett. I'm going to say it again. Good afternoon, my family. Good afternoon. Yes, I knew there was some Queen Mary energy out here. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. I'm going to read Commodore Everett's favorite scripture, Psalms 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shelter of the Most High. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and buckler. Yes, you will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrows that fly by day, not the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, not the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and set the punishment of the wicked. If you make the most of the high, your dwelling, even the Lord, who is my refuge, then no harm will befall you. No disease will come near your tent, for he will command. He will command the angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. Forgive me if I'm a bit emotional, but this is my friend we're talking about here. They will lift you up from the hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread upon the lean and the ordinary. You will trample the great lion and the serpent, because he loves you just like Everett loves us. Says the Lord, I will repel them. I pledge high for the acknowledgement of my name. He will call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will declare him and honor him. With long life will I send him and show him my salvation. As Everett would send him and show him my salvation. Everett was
Thank you so much for being here today to help me celebrate the extraordinary life of my husband, Everett. As I stand here in the midst of unspeakable grief, I'm comforted by the knowledge that I am not alone. I'm held up by the love of so many who cherished him too. And above all, I'm comforted by the knowledge of where he is now. I know with all my heart and soul I will see him again one day. And in the meantime, I find peace in knowing he is no longer in pain, but made whole. The first time I met Everett, I thought there was something seriously wrong with him. He wore the biggest smile on his face, and I had never seen anyone so happy for no apparent reason. It turns out there was something seriously right with him. I just love this picture of him. He looks so happy. He was so proud when his hair turned color and he was finally able to grow a white beard. He thought it made him look more like a Commodore. Novelist Franz Kafka once wrote, "The meaning of life is that it stops," suggesting that its inevitable end is what makes it so precious. And that's true, but in Everett's case, it also means the impact he made while he was here is all the more powerful. Everett was truly larger than life, a man of remarkable energy and boundless joy, with a heart open to everyone he met. He was the most passionate person I've ever known. About life, about people, about cars, about planes, and yes, about ships. His love for the Queen Mary and his pride in being Commodore brought him so much joy. This ship wasn't just steel and history to him. It was a symbol of adventure, connection, and legacy. But in case you didn't know, his greatest passion was always his faith in God. He didn't need to shout it from the rooftops. He lived it every day, humbly, steadily. That almost tangible brightness that radiated from him, that was Jesus. You must know that Everette was humble, but at the same time, he was a force to be reckoned with. He fought so hard, and he never, ever gave up. His physical body did, but his spirit never did. He has run his race, and not only did he finish it, he won it. Because through everything, even his illness, he never let this broken world make him bitter. He was more than prepared to meet his Maker. I imagine some of God's first words to Everette were, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." He always conveyed the importance of treating people well. One of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou speaks directly to who Everette was. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. He loved you all, and I know he would be overjoyed to see this room full of people celebrating his life. As I look through the hundreds or thousands of pictures of Everette, I realize there are very few of us together. As you all know, Everette was a true people person. He had a way of making everyone feel seen, valued, and welcome. His presence could light up a room, and his absence now feels impossible to grasp. He was a genuine sweet soul, unapologetically himself in every moment. I, however, am more of an introvert. I let him spread his wings, live his dreams, while doing my best to support him in the background. I lived vicariously through him and was delighted to do so. While he was happiest being Commodore of the Queen Mary or sailing Cunard, I was content to stay home with our cat family, waiting to hear all about his adventures. He was, in every way, a better person than me. But I will endeavor to be just a fraction of who he was. More loving, more loyal, more present. He taught me so much in our over 32 years together. Right now, I feel like I somehow need to learn to live without the sun. And I know that instead of being angry at the loss, I need to be thankful for the time we had together. Something I've learned this past year is there are very few things in life that truly matter. For me, they are God and family. Everything else is just a distraction. One of Everette's amazing doctors, Dr. Linda, recently said something so simple and so true. None of us know how long we have on earth. All we can do is love each other. So I urge you, cherish your loved ones. Treat them well. Apologize. Learn from your mistakes and do better. Don't sweat the small stuff. Of all the gifts God has given me, being Everette's wife was the greatest honor. So Everette, small stuff. Of all the gifts God has given me,
At this time, I'd love to bring up Scott Becker, Everette's best friend, and he's going to talk a little bit and showcase a video.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Becker. I've had the privilege of calling Everette my best friend for 43 years. And he was more than just a friend. He was my brother. Our families were intertwined, where his mom, his dad were like a second mom and dad to me, and my dad and my mom were like second parents to him. We went through so much of life together. He was there when my sister died. He always gave. He was so generous and so kind. It's him who introduced me to the Lord back in 1982. I have so much hope, and we worked together on quite a few film projects. We made QE2 Forever, King or Queens Forever, which some of you may have seen. And he always took a keen interest in that, in making these things. And so, as my tribute to him, I put together a small video of our 43 years together and my memories of him. And I can say that as I put this together, I looked at some of our memories, and I still laugh at some of our jokes and things we used to do. I'm just very aware that the separation is so hard, but I know that it's only temporary. And I do look forward to seeing my friend and my brother Everett again. Thank you.
Hoard was born on August 13, 1960, in Brewton, Alabama. Even as a young man, Everett had a deep appreciation for beauty, history, and the romance of the sea that would shape his life in remarkable ways. In 1981, a visit to Southern California with his parents brought him face to face with the RMS Queen Mary, a ship that would capture his heart and define much of his journey. Seeing Everett's joy, his parents made a bold decision. His father retired early from the post office, and the family left Alabama behind to settle in Long Beach, California, to be near the ship that brought their son so much happiness. My own friendship with Everett began not long after, in 1982. He was working at the toy and hobby shop on the promenade deck where Stax used to be. I was staying on board the Queen Mary for the weekend with my mother, and a conversation about the Queen Mary and ocean liners sparked a lifelong friendship. We would hang out together along with a group of other friends that all revolved around the Queen Mary. Everett's parents, Ralph and Mary, ran Rainbow Bait and Tackle in Paramount, where they lived on the premises. They were also involved in floral work, with Mary and Everett designing, and Ralph and Everett delivering. They were meager days financially, but there was a happiness in the simplicity of things. Sundays were often spent together at the Queen Mary's Sunday brunch, originally held in the Queen's Salon and later moved to the Grand Salon. Everett was known and loved by the entire staff and the performers too. Characters like W.C. Fields and Mae West would circulate through the dining room, but Everett was the true star.
How long have you worked at the Queen Mary now? 2 years. We have the D's. Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Belgian waffle over here. Very nice.
Very nice.
Oh, go right in. We have our little Eggs Benedict over here.
Eggs
A classic at any brunch. Hello, guys. Little sausage. Hello, guys. Very nice. Made to order. Perhaps a custom omelet.
Yeah, custom omelet.
Very nice. Little bacon.
Bacon.
Yes, we're filming for Jenny Craig. Hello, sir. How are you today? How are you? Oh, I'm very well. I'm very happy.
His love for the ship radiated, and people were drawn to it. He had a passion for his Lincoln Mark IVs and Mark Vs, and we'd often organize what we called Fleet Days, a caravan of cars from Studio City or Long Beach to the Queen Mary, or sometimes to the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, and to see the QE2 when she would stop in Los Angeles in late January each year. Those drives were adventures, and along with us were friends such as Dale, Bob, and Donnie. Everett knew Bob Venning, the chief petty officer on the QE2, and we would go aboard as his guest each year. Everett was an artist at heart. He painted ocean liners with striking skill, but didn't stop there. He could work magic with wood, metal, or whatever he had on hand, turning ordinary materials into extraordinary creations. He once recreated the famed Mauritania painting from the Queen Mary's second-class smoke room and gave it to me. Today, it hangs in my home in Oregon, a daily reminder of his friendship. Together, we traveled to New York, Germany, Southampton, and made unforgettable memories. One of our most cherished trips was with my father to his native New York in 1987, where we saw the newly refitted QE2. We had brunch at the Waldorf Astoria, dined at Windows on the World atop the World Trade Center, and were fortunate enough to be able to do so in style. Everett was fortunate to call legendary Cunard figures friends, Commodore Jeffrey Marr, Captain John Treasure Jones, and his wife Belle. He hosted the Joneses aboard the Queen Mary around 1986 and gave the captain an etched port glass with a personal inscription. I was lucky to be there when Captain Jones welcomed us to the Flying Angels Club in Southampton, a veritable who's who of Cunard royalty. He was guest at Captain Jones's house numerous times, which Captain Jones named Priscilla. Their bond was genuine, rooted in respect and shared love of the sea. Everett had a genuine friendship with these men that meant the world to him. They would talk of many subjects, not just the Cunard Queens, whether it was current events, politics, faith, and any other subject. Everett never arrived without a gift. Whether it was a painting of the Queen Elizabeth for Commodore Marr or the Queen Mary at night for Captain Jones, we sailed on the Crown Princess's maiden voyage from Southampton to New York, where he presented the ship's captain with a painting Everett had made at a special maiden voyage gala. His offerings were heartfelt, creative, and deeply personal. In 1995, Everett married the love of his life, Cindy Mabel. Though there are no wedding photos, the image of them walking hand in hand, captured in my father's memory, who took them to get married, says more than any photograph ever could. Their bond was real, filled with devotion, faith, and quiet joy. Cindy gave Everett the very best of herself and walked beside him through every chapter of his life. He worked closely with Russ Cugno at the Queen's Seashell Castle and California Shakes aboard the Queen Mary, and later took a memorable leg of QE2's world cruise in 2003. Everett was invited to the officers' wardroom, where he was, in his element, among seafarers and storytellers. Eventually, Everett became a living part of the Queen Mary herself. He served the public with deep knowledge, drawing from his friendships with Cunard's great captains. He brought the romance of the ship to life for visitors from every corner of the world. Whether guiding celebrities, VIPs, or members of the royal family of Jordan, who even invited him to visit their kingdom, Everett was a natural ambassador, full of grace, charm, and reverence. Everett worked closely with friends from the Cunard line, such as Peter Shanks, Jackie Chase, seen here at the Queen Mary's 75th anniversary gala, and Robbie Lohr. And between their collaborative effort, they brought into being grand events called Royal Rendezvous, where Queen Mary II, Queen Victoria, and Queen Elizabeth all came up to the Queen Mary in what was a spectacular show of maritime glory. Echoing perhaps another visit from a past Cunarder, the Cunard Princess around 1986, these events drew huge crowds and drew the media from all corners of the globe. He also visited Captains Paul Wright and Commodore Warwick as guests on their ships and was able to view the arrival into New York aboard QM2. Never empty-handed, he always came bearing a gift which is on display aboard those ships. On one occasion, Everett presented Commodore Warwick with an original Cunard House flag as a gift. In 2008, Everett and I took the last westbound transatlantic crossing of Queen Elizabeth II from Southampton to New York. He went through great lengths to deliver a gift to Captain Ian McNaught, who Everett admired. We were invited to a special cocktail party, that voyage in the captain's quarters where Everett gave Captain McNaught his gift. He rarely took photographs, nor kept a diary, but he lived his life fully, in the moment. Joanna, the Queen Mary's publicity person, booked him for interviews across the U.S. He became known not only in Long Beach, but also in the United Kingdom, where Queen Mary's former crew remembered him fondly. He held close friendships with people like Rebecca, who showed deep compassion and care to his father Ralph, and June, whom he visited back east and spoke of often with affection. He admired his boss, Steve, at the Queen Mary, always grateful for his support and encouragement. In 2016, I moved to Oregon to be close to my father. I visited Long Beach one final time in 2017, unaware it would be the last time I'd see Everett. Though we both tried to visit the other either here or there, the Lord had other plans. In the end, what remains is this. Everett lived a life of adventure, kindness, and generosity. He was guided by his love for history, his devotion to his beloved Queen Mary, and most importantly, his unwavering faith in the Lord. He gave so much to so many, and left behind more than memories, he left a legacy of inspiration, love, and joy. And most importantly, through it all, Everett and Cindy walked hand in hand, side by side, on a journey of love, faith, and quiet devotion, a bond that endures beyond time. He will be deeply missed and always remembered.
Wow. Now I know why we had so much tissue around the room here. Wow. Okay, that was beautiful. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Scott. That was a great job. Now I want to ask Rebecca Atkinson to come up and say a few words. Rebecca?
Wait for it. Hey, feels good being 6'3". From the words of Commodore Everette Hoard in his foreword, The Queen and I, he said, "I think many of us are born with what we love already alive in our hearts. Others find it as they go, but I believe in destiny, fate, and providence." If you were fortunate enough to have encountered Everett at any point in your life, you know that destiny, fate, and providence brought him to the Queen Mary as a guardian and lifeblood of this ship. Before I became friends with Everett and Cindy, I serendipitously met Everett's father, Ralph, 25 years ago, and we became very close friends. But I immediately noticed that the subject of our conversations always centered around a recurring theme: his son. To say that he loved Everett was a profound understatement. Everett was his world. And soon after meeting Ralph, I got to know Everett, and like many of you, I was astounded by his eloquence, the depth and breadth of his knowledge, his artistry, and his great sense of humor. He had many hidden talents that not a lot of people knew about, that he simply enjoyed in the confines of his own home. But I will say, he could have won a Grammy the way he played the saxophone. And the works of art he created and replicated were amazing. Everett had a light that radiated from within and was sourced from a deep well of his faith, which he lived day in and day out. He also had an astounding memory, as it is not often you meet someone in this life that remembers sitting on his father's lap at the age of 2, watching his dad draw pictures of Navy ships and the Cunard Queens, or as a 4-year-old who, on his birthday, received a set of encyclopedias and immediately opening the S and devouring any and all information on ships. His insatiable zeal for learning surpassed any set of encyclopedias as he became a researcher, a writer, a maritime historian, a speaker, a consultant, and a traveler. But there is always more that meets the eye. Everett's birthday was August 13th, and as many of you know, that means he was a Leo. A Leo, the lion, thrives on the admiration of others. In fact, they demand it. They give a lot and they expect a lot in return. And criticism will not be taken lightly by a lion. After all, the lion is doing everything to make others happy. How could anyone possibly suggest things should be done in a different way? And though a Leo may naturally stand out in a crowd, it still wants to look better than everyone else. And often, before you would even see Everett coming down the hall in his impeccable uniform, in the air would waft an incredible and expensive fragrance, and you knew he was right around the corner. And like the sun, Leo sheds its light and warmth generously on those around them. And in return, the lion only asks for one thing: to be the center of the universe. Now, there is a story that I can neither confirm nor deny. But allegedly, as a young child, he broke a lamp. And his mother said, "Why did you do that?" And he looked her dead in the eye and said, "No one shines brighter than me." Beneath the Leo's confident exterior, however, may lurk some self-doubts, fears of rejection, which may cause some melodrama. And the lion doesn't make gestures. It makes grand gestures. And Leos don't have troubles. They suffer tragedies. But Everett the lion had a strong sense of self-aware of his talents, and possessed a desire and a need to demonstrate them. And his strength of purpose established him to work towards his goals with confidence and determination. And at his best, he was like the sun, warm, giving, and reliable. Everett spent the last 44 years, more or less, aboard this ship, and the last 32 plus years with a powerful and incredible woman. His love of his life, Cindy, that he so much adored more than anything. They met as neighbors in 1991, and as destiny, fate, and providence would have it, they were soon married in 1995, and they never left each other's side. Makes some of us a little jealous. His tenure on the Queen Mary began with selling toys and seashells, bartending, retailing, covering all parts of this ship, bow to stern, port to starboard, and eventually he began commanding the third side of the ship, the social side, he would say with a wink, and he became Commodore of the Queen Mary. He also spent significant time in the United Kingdom, cultivating profound friendships with many of the captains of both the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth. And during one visit with Captain Treasure Jones, he said to him, "You know, Everett, someday I'll be up there looking down at you, and you'd better be taking care of my ship." And that prophetic word came true as Everett devoted his life to this incredible vessel from nearly the moment he arrived in Long Beach till the day he took his last breath. The book of Ecclesiastes tells us that there is a time to laugh and there is a time to weep. And Everett gave us so many moments of joy and laughter. And it is with heavy hearts that we are in a season to weep. There are no words to describe the depth of this loss. Winston Churchill, who walked these halls and these decks, organizing D-Day here on his wartime office out at sea on the Queen Mary, once said that everyone can recognize history when it happens. Everyone can recognize history after it happens. But the wise man knows at the moment what is vital, what is permanent, what is lasting, and what is memorable. Everett knew what was vital and permanent, lasting, and memorable, and he made it his life mission to preserve that which connects the thread of our human story, that which stands the test of time, and that which explains our life in the present by shining light into the past. He illuminated countless hearts and minds across the globe. And he would often say to the public, I can't take you out to sea, but I can take you on an incredible voyage across the oceans of time. He concluded many of his speeches addressing the Queen Mary herself, saying, may your glory never fade and your light never dim. And we hold the same sentiment for you, dear Everett. May your light that you brought to so many lives never dim, but may it continue to shine through those of you, those of us that encountered you in this lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next is Jackie Chase from Kennard.
Hello, good afternoon. That's a tough act to follow, Rebecca. Thanks a lot. I am truly honored and privileged to be able to be here to pay tribute to my wonderful friend Everett, who I had the pleasure of knowing for almost 20 years. In my recently retired role of Director of Public Relations for Cunard in North America, Everett and I had the happy opportunity to work together on many events. And before I speak to that, I just firstly want to say that my heart goes out to Cindy, Everett's beautiful wife, whose love and devotion I know to Everett was boundless. And the love they had for one another was truly one for the ages. So Everett and I met almost 20 years ago when the Queen Mary II was going to be making her maiden call to Los Angeles. And so we wanted to do something major and splashy, and we had the wonderful fortune to connect with the Queen Mary and, of course, with Everett to design a very fitting event, not only for Queen Mary II's maiden call, but also to pay tribute and homage to the Queen Mary. And so it was, I mean, for me, you know, I had only really been with Cunard like a year, so this was just amazing and incredible that I would have the opportunity to touch this ship. And as I was learning all about the Queen Mary and then meeting Everett, who, I mean, as you all know, whose passion and energy and love, you know, for the Queen Mary was just something extraordinary. And so as we saw earlier in the wonderful video, we created the first, what we called Cunard Royal Rendezvous event with the Queen Mary II in 2006. And that basically paved the way for another 15 years of various events that would occur between the Queen Mary and our ships when they would come to Los Angeles. And, you know, it really was something to have the new flagship of Cunard meet the icon, the other icon, the previous first icon of the seas, the Queen Mary. And there's just no way that any of that or any of the following events that transpired over the next almost 2 decades would have happened without Everett. He brought everything to life around this ship, and you know, arguably knows more about not only Cunard, but ocean liner history than anyone that I've ever known. And I've met a lot of maritime historians. And this was sort of the period that started the modern renaissance of Cunard. Before that, Cunard obviously is a company that's been around for 185 years, which is absolutely remarkable. But Cunard went through a lot of different machinations and incarnations over the decades. And so when the Queen Mary II came onto the scene and Mickey Arison happily acquired Cunard to build Queen Mary II, it was the advent of the Cunard that you know now. And what I just want to say is that Everett, even though he worked for the Queen Mary, Everett was as much a Cunard ambassador and a champion and an integral part of Cunard of anyone I've ever known, and absolutely is responsible for so many amazing partnership events that we did because of his passion. Case in point, the wonderful Cunard room that is on this ship. Everett was just absolutely devoted to the idea that we would show the public who came to the Queen Mary what this relationship was with Cunard, because a lot of people had no idea. And so he and Chris Wilmoth and many of the team, they championed this project, and now we have this incredible Cunard room on the Queen Mary that tells everybody what the integral link is between Cunard and the Queen Mary. The other thing, that was mentioned is that Everett loved sailing on our ships and lecturing, and he was so beloved. I mean, I wish you all could have been in his lectures, standing room only. Everywhere he went on the ship, people wanted to talk to him and spend time with him, and he was just ever gracious, always there, always willing to chat and talk to people, and the joy that he had on his face all throughout the sailings. And I'm so privileged that I got to sail with Everett a couple times. One time Cindy joined and my husband was on board, and that was very, very special. So I guess, there's so much to say, and I guess I just want to kind of leave you with this. During the time that I was with Cunard, I used to say this a lot when I would talk to media and just other people that would listen to me. And I would say that if anyone had ever told me that I would have had the opportunity to work for the Cunard brand company story, I would never in a million years have believed it. And what I've come to learn is how incredibly privileged I was to be a part of the tapestry of Cunard. This is like Jamie's here, my colleague, my friend. I use this phrase a lot, but it is the tapestry of Cunard. All of you here, everyone that's ever set foot on this ship, they are part of that tapestry. But Everett has a whole big wide panel on the tapestry, okay? He was the living embodiment of what Cunard aspired to be. And I am so privileged in my 20-year career that I got to know him and that I was in his orbit and that we did develop a close friendship. I'm shattered that he's gone. I really cannot believe it, but I know, as all of you do, Everett's light is bigger than anything, and it will continue to burn bright and endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. I'd like to call up now Pastor David Perman, Everett's brother-in-law.
Probably don't need that. Everett was the type of person, if you met him, you met a new friend. Not unlike Scott. I got a new friend in Scott. But when you met him, you wanted to be a friend with him. He was a very sweet and wonderful man. He was so full of joy. He had 3 great loves in his life. That was God, my sister Cindy, and this beautiful ship, the Queen Mary. We are here to celebrate his life now that he has died. But I need to tell you something, that death is not natural. You need to understand that. Death is actually supernatural. It was never actually intended to be a part of this world in which we live. Why does it happen? It happens because of sin and the judgment of God upon sin. The Bible says that all men die because all men sin. And usually, at a funeral like this, every once in a while, people will actually ask themselves, what is really going on here? What is true? What am I actually supposed to be living for? But unfortunately, even in moments like this, most people actually never wake up. Let me give you an example. How many people would actually go to a funeral and say, well, Everett is no longer suffering. He's gone to a better place. And I always want to ask somebody like that, I want to ask them, how do you know that? Where exactly did you hear that? Who told you that? You see, none of that means anything unless it's actually true. So, is it true? Has Everett really gone to a better place? Or is he just gone? Who is right? Who is wrong? What is life and this world really about? Well, I'm here to tell you this morning that, it's not morning, one person in the midst of all the words that have ever been spoken about death, he actually stood up and he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through me. Now, someone might say, well, Everett, he's in a better place because he was such a good person. I would say no. He is in a better place, but it is not because he was a good person. Because Scripture says there is none that are good, no, not one. There is none righteous, no, not one. If Everett is anywhere, it is only because of the finished work of Jesus Christ upon the cross. It is because of his death, his burial, and his resurrection, not because of how Everett actually acted. It is because of what Jesus did. Now, Jesus Christ claimed to be God. And when we hear that, we actually need to come to grips with something that C.S. Lewis said. It's called the trilemma. Jesus Christ was God in the flesh. Now, when we hear that, we need to understand that there are only three logical possibilities here with that quote. One was he's either a lunatic, an absolute lunatic, because anyone who thinks they are God, who believes that they are actually God, but they are not, is a lunatic. Second, he was either a lunatic or a liar. And not just a liar, but the worst sort of liar. Because if he was a liar, then he has actually led more people to become deceived than any other deceiver in the history of mankind. So either he was a lunatic, or he was a liar, or he was actually the Lord, the Son of God. That's it. Lord, lunatic, or Lord. But with this knowledge comes the other part. Many people, even in the church, especially at funerals, say, well, you know what? I actually believe in God. Now, my friend here, he is an atheist. He doesn't believe in God. And I would say, well, I have a lot more respect for your atheistic friend than I do for you. Of course, then they would ask me, well, why? And I would say, well, he says he is an atheist, and he actually lives like one. You say you believe in God, yet God does not have any impact or influence upon your life. You see, if you out and out reject Jesus Christ as a lunatic or a liar, and you live like the world, you're being consistent with your life. The same thing as if he was a liar. But if there is actually an inkling in your mind that he is the Son of God, but he actually doesn't have anything to do with your life, I got to say, that's absolute insanity. He is the only one who actually has truth. Now notice what Jesus said. He said, I am the way and the truth and the life. One of the things that Christianity has actually been referred to throughout history is the Greek word scandalon, which means a scandal. Christianity has always been considered a scandal. And the scandal of Christianity is this: it is exclusive. Now, Jesus doesn't stand up and say, I am a way, I am a truth, and I am a life. He says, I am the truth, the life, and the way. He speaks exclusively of every other religion and belief system. There is only one true God, and it is Jesus Christ. Now, he says that he is the truth. Not a truth, but the truth. He is the source of all truth. Now, if you deny that and you live as if he is not the truth, well, then you are actually consistent with your life. But if you say, yes, I believe Jesus Christ is the truth, and he has no impact on your life, that is actually inconsistent. It is actually not logical. He also said he is the truth, but he also said that he is the way. Now, 70% of Americans today believe that they are actually a Christian because at one time in their life, they were baptized as an infant, or they go to church, maybe Mass, once a month or once a year. And I would say that's actually ridiculous. Or people believe that they are a Christian because at one time in their life, they prayed a little prayer. Or they asked Jesus to come into their heart. Both which are actually unbiblical. But he also said that he is the truth. A lot of people will say, well, if you believe he's truth, they say, I believe he's the Son of God. I believe he died for my sins. I believe he rose again from the dead. Did you know that the book of James says that the devil believes that and shudders? But he is also the way. The faith that he is the Son of God, that he died for your sins, that he is the only way to heaven, that faith needs to actually mold your life. It'll actually create a new way that you should live the rest of your life. And then not only is he the way, not only is he truth, he says that he is the truth, And a lot of people say, well, you know what? I actually received Jesus. But that's not what that means. To receive Jesus, he once explained it like this. And he did it in a way that was offensive to everyone. So much so that it actually caused people to turn away from him. Jesus said this, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part with me. Now, everyone turned away from him when he said that, and he actually knew that they would. But he said it anyways. What exactly was he teaching? To receive Jesus is not just a little prayer we say that you believe in, or to invite him into your heart, or to be baptized, or to even go to church. He was saying to receive him as he becomes the very sustenance or source of your life. He is not just some accessory that you add to your life like a purse or a belt buckle. There are many preachers today that say you can have a wonderful life. You've got a great career. You have beautiful kids. Everything in your life is wonderful. You just lack one little thing. You need Jesus. And I would actually say that's blasphemy. Jesus would say it this way. You have nothing if you don't have me. You have nothing. He is not just a part of our life. He is not just an accessory to our life. He is our life. Everett is in heaven because of the work of Jesus Christ, that it is absolutely perfect. It's not about Everett. The Bible actually says all your good works, even the best, most moral things you can do before a holy and righteous God, are literally like filthy rags. So here's the key. To be a Christian would be to say, Lord, forgive me. Please help me. I need grace. I want to be what you want me to be. I admit I fell all the time. And if it were not for the power and the blood of Jesus Christ, I would have absolutely no hope at all. And if you have any other attitude about yourself, you are not a Christian. If you think you're going to heaven because you're a good person, or you are religious, or have done some good things in your life, you are wrong. The old hymn writer said it like this: nothing in my hands I bring, simply to the cross of Christ I cling. Morality will not save you. Going to church will not save you. Religion will not save you. Nor anything else will be able to save you, but only faith in Christ. A trust that is created by the Spirit of God, who has shown you the sin in your life, the absolute, utter destitution of your own righteousness. God has opened the door today and shown you that if he were to judge you according to your works, according to your deeds, you would be like all others. The Bible says all have fallen short of the glory of God, and the wages of sin is death. You must throw away every hope in yourself and everything and only trust in Jesus. Christ alone. But one thing I think Everett was sure of, and wants everybody here today to know, is do not think for one moment that he is in heaven because he was religious, or because he tried to do right, or that he was a good person, or anything else. He is there because Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners who have repented of their sins and put their trust only in him. I plead today that you would do just that. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to watch a video, and this is a message from June Allen, who was great friends with Everett, and it's always good to see her face and hear her voice. So,
in February 1946, I arrived in New York aboard the Queen Mary as a war bride. Since then, I've raised a family, had 2 husbands, lived a normal life. 66 years later, I went out to Long Beach, California to see the Queen Mary, which I hadn't seen. And that's when I met Commodore Everette Hoard. I have known him for 13 years, but I feel like I've known him all my life. He is the kindest, most intelligent person I've ever met. His personality, his sense of humor, I love his laugh, and his knowledge of the ship is beyond belief. No one knows anything as much about the ship as he does, and no one will ever do that again. Since then, I've been to the Queen Mary 26 times. I live in Indiana, and Everett has been to Indiana 6 times. He even came here in 2023 and married my grandson and his wife, Teresa. He loves Indiana. He loved to come here to visit. And I told him one time, the greatest gift you can give anyone is your time. And he has certainly given me a lot of time. He has called me once a week for the last 10 years on Facebook. Sometimes we've talked as long as 2 hours. He called me Mama. I called him Commodore. I told him that I had adopted him. We became the greatest of friends. And so many of my friends in Indiana have gone out to the Queen Mary with me, especially my grandson. They became great friends. He used to go to church with me. He's an Episcopalian like I am. And everybody at the congregation of my church, Father Bob, they all have prayed for him when he was ill, and all have met him and loved him. You can't meet him and not love him. Everybody that I know of has nothing. He loved his job as Commodore. That was his greatest thrill in life. When they made the shop on Promenade Deck into the Commodore's office, he was so thrilled about that. That's right about the time that he became ill. He has been ill for the last year. He has suffered so much. And thank God for his wife, Cindy. That was a wonderful marriage. She is the sweetest person in the world. She has taken such good care of him. He worshipped her so much. And she took care of him right up to the day he died. She's one of God's angels. She's a wonderful person. I love you too, Cindy. Every time he called me on Facebook, he would send me a message and say, "Are you receiving, Mama?" And I'd always put, "Give me 5 minutes. I got to put my lipstick on." I always let him call me. I very seldom called him because he was always so busy. But one time I had to call him about something, and I called him and said, "Commodore Rourke, are you able to call me?" And he sent me a message back and says, "Give me 5. I've got to put my lipstick on." Today is August the 3rd, my 98th birthday. Everett always sent me flowers for Christmas, Mother's Day, and my birthday. Last Thursday, a truck pulled up and I had a bunch of flowers. I looked at the card and it said, "Happy birthday, Mama, love, Commodore." I was so shocked and so surprised, and I called dear sweet Cindy, and she told me that Everett told her 2 or 3 days before he died, be sure to send Mama her flowers from me for her birthday. That was Everett. 1,000 things about his friendship. I would say, as Everett would say, steady as she goes.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful, Jude. Thank you. Thank you for the touching tribute. I had never heard Commodore. That's pretty cool. I don't think I would have called him Commodore, but if I knew, maybe. It's funny. Some people are saying, being on board is not the same without Everett. And that's definitely the case any other day, but not today. Today, I truly believe he's with us throughout the day. I truly believe he's looking and smiling and seeing all of these familiar faces here, and just very happy that you're all here. Commodore Everette Hoard was a great man. He personally inspired and educated many of us on what it means to be a true steward and admirer of the Queen Mary. He taught me that this isn't just a job or even just a responsibility. To do this right, you must be a servant leader, and you must align your passion with what is best for the Queen. I took that to heart and try to live that each and every day. We are storytellers on this ship, storytellers. I have many stories of the Commodore, many moments of laughter, of sadness, of history lessons, events, and conversations about our family and friends. But looking into this regal room, I see so many people who have their own stories. And I'm sure that your interactions with Everett were special, warm, heartfelt, and included many stories that would make us all laugh or cry, or with Everett, cry laughing. You know what I'm talking about. But because I'm on this stage, in front of this microphone and behind this podium, doesn't mean that I should take up this time with Everett and Steve's stories. These stories live right here in my heart and will stay there forever. I would like to talk to you about Everett Hoard, the Commodore. Everett knew more about the Queen Mary than anyone. He lived and breathed the Queen Mary. Many people would say that if the Queen Mary was a person, that person would be Everett. His passion for this royal ship was unmatched. Everett was the heart and soul of the Queen Mary. His mere presence on the ship was nothing short of magical and awesome. He was kind, personable, strong, confident, and knowledgeable. He lit up a room when he walked in. You can actually have like a CEO giving a speech in one of our meeting rooms and commanding the room, but then here comes Everett walking in. It's all over for that CEO. All eyes go off of him and they go on to Commodore Everette. He married numerous brides and grooms, welcomed the most prestigious gala VIPs, and entertained events of every kind. He loved this ship. He also loved his Queen Mary colleagues, and his colleagues loved him, past and present. He would go out of his way to say hi, smile, or provide unsolicited facts about the Queen. And we would be like, I didn't know that, or I had no idea. But then we would go tell others about it, kind of like it was our idea, that we came up with it. Hey, did you know this? He was just full of facts. Everett was here on the ship through so many lease agreements, property managers, hotel operators, but I really don't think Everett kept track. He knew who the boss was. Well, yes, you, Cindy, but he knew the Mary was the boss. That's all that mattered, not who managed or leased or whatever relating to this beautiful ship, but he served the Queen herself, Her Royal Highness, the Queen Mary. Everett did it all as Commodore. Let me go down my list of what he did. He was an ambassador, an author, a painter, a counselor, a storyteller, a greeter, a speaker, a host, a curator, a tour guide, a historian, a chaplain, a teacher, a florist, a friend, and yes, he was a visionary. Everett and I would have one-on-one meetings every other week. We would talk about reopening. Before we reopened, we would be talking about the reopening of the ship and what we wanted it to look like and what was in store for her future. He always made it clear that restoring the Queen was a delicate mission, a mission to preserve history, a rich history that brings the past into the future. Some projects that were near and dear to his heart was he inspired the Queen Mary Archives Museum on the promenade level. That was something, he said, we have all this beautiful archives of the past and it's sitting at the bottom of the ship and the people can't see it. Well, that was his inspiration, and now it's up on the promenade deck and everybody can see it. He brought back the Royal Standard. The Royal Standard, I have to say that carefully because the first time I called it a flag and I was corrected real fast. So the Royal Standards between the M deck and the main hall, and that was something that was personally made for him and was actually dedicated on December 9th. He facilitated the Sisters of the Seas here on the Queen Mary, which are two beautiful models of the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth in the Welcome Center. Thank you very much, Tom Varney, wherever you're at. You did wonderful work. Let's give him a beautiful... And he inspired the Commodore's office so that the world could have more access, not only to him, but to our officers. The officers and him, they would make speeches, and they would go and be greeters. But nobody had access all the time. That Commodore's office, as you see that, it's a fishbowl that you can go in, and the doors would always be open, and everyone can come in and get a chance to talk to the Commodore. And some of the projects in the works that were important to him was the Queen Mary Art Gallery. Under the works right now, should be done in early September, and that is the beautiful art of the Queen Mary that wasn't originally placed in the location. It is all going to one room, and our goal is to make that writing room look like the way it did when it sailed in 1936. It's going to be remarkable. The propeller room. The propeller room on the back of the ship, if you haven't seen the propeller room, and I'm sure most of you have, it's just beautiful, massive, awesome. I always say the definition of awesome is look at that propeller and really just make it special. The observation bar. We love our observation bar, but inspired by Everette. Everette was pretty much his philosophy, which is my philosophy now, is let's get it back to the way it was. So we will be putting tile back on there. We will be getting the beautiful furniture in there. And we will be displaying, the red, let's just call it rooster. Okay. And with keeping with the original period, again, something inspired by Everette, is that we're actually bringing back the long gallery. So this is something near and dear to all of our hearts, but again, to stress, it's something that is Everette's vision of the Queen being what it was when it sailed in 1936. You see, it wasn't just about today for Everette. It was about the Queen Mary into the future. Today, we are engaged in the great restoration of the Queen Mary. As we operate the Queen, we are simultaneously restoring and preserving the ship. This is not a small task. We've come a long way since reopening, and we have much, much more work to do. But the historic roots of what it was, what it's now, and what it will be was inspired by the passion of Commodore Everette Hoard. This is the new golden era of the Queen Mary. We as a ship, as a city, and as a worldwide Queen Mary community will need to carry on with Everette's passion for the ship. And we will. The new golden era is in our sights. A statesman once said about a great president's passing, which holds true today for Commodore Everette Hoard. Now he belongs to the ages. Long live the Queen Mary, and long live Everette Hoard in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today. We have our next kind of phase of the program up on the Britannia deck at 4 o'clock. So go ahead and grab a drink, or we'll meet you up there at 4 o'clock. Okay, there'll be a horn that sounds when it's time to start up there. 4 o'clock. Thank you, guys.